Well, good evening, everyone. Again, I want to just give you a warm welcome to this beautiful banquet. It's so good to be together with the Cherish Project team to just celebrate this evening and everything that we have planned. The whole evening is built around this theme: every life a masterpiece. And that's kind of the theme. I think the belief all of us in this room, probably why you're here, is because you care about lives. Lives matter. The vulnerable matter, babies matter, mums matter, our seniors matter. In this community, life matters. And so tonight we just really want to focus on some really great stories and testimonies about just the sanctity of life and that every life is a masterpiece. Well, I'm going to be emceeing tonight. My name is Gord Fleming. I'm on staff here at Main Street Church. I get to be the executive pastor here. Probably more importantly, just have a huge passion for this ministry. It just really matters to me personally. I just want to be very involved in everything that takes place with the Cherish Project, just as a volunteer, someone who really cares about the sanctity of life also. So kind of wondering what to expect tonight. You probably noticed there's a little uh, card on your table that just gives you an overview of the evening. We've got a great keynote speaker, which I'll introduce to you a little bit later. We've got some great door prizes that I'll explain to you about. But uh, probably the most, not the most important thing, but one of the fun things is to have dinner together. And so some of you don't know me. Before my life in the ministry, my life was marketplace, and my marketplace life was the restaurant industry. So I'm a foodie. Food matters. So it's like, if I'm going to be MC, the food has to like knock it out of the park. So we have a great team here at Main Street Church. We have a Red Seal chef who just put on an incredible meal for us tonight, and see it, his team of volunteers just knocked it out of the park. So if you're wondering what's for dinner, let me tell you. Just baked this afternoon roast beef with a beautiful gravy, sauteed chicken and a nice mushroom cream sauce, roasted vegetables. And as I watched them pull these vegetables out of the oven, there's like butternut squash, Brussels sprouts, red peppers, cauliflower, carrots, asparagus. If you're a vegetarian, just enjoy the roasted vegetables. Just knocked out of the park. Greek salad, Caesar salad, green salad, buns, not just buns, like buns baked this afternoon, just pulled out of the oven. You guys are going to have just an incredible meal. So, yes, it's not just bring in the caterers. If we're going to do a dinner, let's do a really special dinner. So, it's going to be great. I'd like to just say a blessing for the food, and then I'll explain how we're going to do table releases and how it is we're going to have dinner together. So, Lord, we just come before you and we just thank you that you are the master of life. And when we think about every life, a masterpiece, that's because to you, Lord, every life is a masterpiece. We just thank you for the food that's been prepared tonight. We ask your blessing over it. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, so it's kind of based on your donation. So the table who gives the most, what are you laughing about? Executive pastors do finances. I'm the finance guy, so it's all about. No, I'm just kidding. So someone's going to be. There's going to be people just touching tables. Our staff on the Cherish Project are just going to oversee table releases. There's going to be 2 buffets. They'll explain to you when to go, where to go. Please don't. I'm hungry. I'm going now. Just wait for someone to come back, touch your table. They'll let you know when they go. We'll just watch some slides while we're doing that, and I'll come up and make some announcements. As we make our way up to the buffet, a few people have been asking about the beverage station. There's 4 beverage stations, 2 on the left, 2 on the right. At the back of both stations is iced tea. Front 2 stations is water. If you want to replenish your water jug on the table, you could just go up and replenish that. There's also jugs of water you could use. If you'd like hot tea is on the back where I'm pointing to. There's hot tea station. There's also decaf coffee on the left. On the right, you can just see the decanters that say decaf. So cold water, iced tea, hot coffee, and decaf coffee at the 4 tables. And just bring your cup from your table with you. Thank you. Okay, I trust you're all enjoying your meal. It's delicious, eh? Come on, give it up for the kitchen. Good job. In case you didn't notice, the washrooms are out in the main foyer, just to the side there. You'll see the big signs, men and women's, just at the back and to the side. Probably noticed that there's door prizes at the back, and on each table, each individual has a door prize, little slip that you can just fill that out and then put that into these right here, door prize draw at Gord's feet, the green bin, green and white bin. Just drop your little door prize entry, and then at the night, we're going to pull some winners for some fantastic door prizes. There's also an online auction. If you just scan that QR code on the back of your uh, agenda, it'll just give you a link, and that's going to close sharply at 8:30. So you want to make sure you take advantage of that online auction. I also noticed a lot of you didn't eat much tonight. I just thought you're probably saying, wow, this is a big room and there's probably not a lot of food, so I probably shouldn't eat too much. Thank you for doing that. But for those of you who did, I want to invite you to go back to the buffet. There's a replenished full buffet right at the back one. This one has been deleted. So if you would like to now have the rest of your dinner, I'm saying this so that, if you see a friend going up, they're not like eating too much. They ate a very little on their first time around. So those of you that like seconds, buffets at the back. We'll continue with our program in about 20 minutes. Thanks. Thank you. It looks like a lot of people enjoying seconds. We're glad to see you enjoying the food. Several people have asked me about the door prize draw and how that works. It might be easier if one person at each table collects the entries and takes them to the little bin. I've had a number of people tell me that they don't actually like coming to the front with their little tags. So I moved it to the back where the door prizes are. So then it's really subtle. It looks like you go into the washroom, slip your little ticket in, nobody will know it's you. So the door prize entry bin is at the back where the door prizes are. Make sure you fill out that form. And we're going to give away the door prizes a little bit later. Keep in mind that online auction, that QR code is on the back of your agenda for tonight. That's going to close right at 8:30, so you'll want to take advantage of that. And I know you're eating while I'm talking. That's totally fine. Our goal is to kind of keep the evening flowing, not to go too late, and to maximize as much as we can pack into tonight's meeting. So we're going to kind of start our kind of formal part of the program in about 5 minutes. Thank you. Okay, I trust you're enjoying your dinner together. I just want to mention if maybe one of you at the table is a bit of a foodie, restaurateur, kitchen person, if you want to stack the dinner plates just on one stack, just like this amazing table have done, our staff will come around and pick up that stack of plates. So you don't have to worry about the dinner plates. If you could just make a stack of plates and silverware on top at your table, that would be perfect. You probably also noticed, if you haven't already consumed, there's a triple chocolate mousse cake on the table. And again, just to maximize the agenda and our timing together, instead of breaking out of the room to have dessert, we're just going to have you enjoy your dessert at your table. Maybe one of you can be, again, that restaurateur and just take the little side plates and portion those lovely chocolate mousse cakes onto the plates, pass them around your table. Staff just replenish the decaf coffee and coffee at the stations. So stack your plates, enjoy your dessert. Some of you that want to have a gluten-free option for dessert, we have prepared a buffet table. There's gluten-free dessert. Where the side buffet was is now gluten-free dessert. So you can just make your way out the side, enjoy that dessert, and make your way back to the table. Any questions, just come and find me. I'm off to the side, and we'll resume our program shortly. Thanks. Okay, folks, I trust you have enjoyed your dinner and you're enjoying your dessert. Yeah, delicious. Can I get you to hold that? Because I've asked the kitchen staff who are back in the kitchen to make their way forward so that we can just acknowledge them in person. So hold that for 60, 90 seconds. Hey, we're going to kind of move into a little bit of a formal part of the agenda, if that's okay. Maybe we can just have the room settle down. Stop your talking. Can we pray together? That always works. Lord, thank you for this amazing evening. We just ask your blessing on our time together, our continued time together. And as we listen from different presenters this evening, would you just stir our hearts for the things that matter to you? We just ask in Jesus' precious name. Amen. Well, you know, we've all been to different kind of banquets, different kind of events. Some are really happy clappy, some are emotional, some are sad. And I just want to point out to you kind of it's a bit of a sensitive topic, isn't it? To talk about abortion, to talk about MAID and the seniors who choose to take their own lives and doctors who are just openly ending people's lives. It's kind of a hard topic. It's kind of a sensitive topic. And I just kind of, if I could prep your heart, because there's going to be times we will laugh and there's going to be times it's going to be a little emotional. But how can we talk about life and death things without just unpacking those things together? So it's going to prepare your heart for what's in store in the next hour together. And yeah, thank you. There's our team here. Could you just like thank this incredible team? Just an amazing dinner. Thank you. Staff and volunteers of Main Street Church who just really care about the ministry here at the Cherish Project. And as we scroll through our sponsors, we're just so thankful for all of our sponsors. A lot of you are here tonight, business owners, corporations, individuals who just really care about this ministry. You might have noticed Main Street Church is a diamond sponsor. I'd probably correct that to say it's not Main Street Church. The congregation, over 2,000 people who attend Main Street Church, this really matters. And so we fund significantly the Cherish Project because that's a really important part of what takes place in this community. And speaking of the Cherish Project and kind of what goes on, some of you are incredibly familiar with what takes place on a day-to-day basis. The staff, you're really connected with them. Others of you are like, can you just help me understand a little bit? So we're just going to watch a very quick clip and just maybe a little bit of a better understanding of the Cherish Project here in Chilliwack. Watch the video with me. Yeah, let's give a round of applause for the team at Cherish Project. Every life a masterpiece. Isn't that true? Now we're going to just hear from Marion Niels. If you don't know Marion, she's the Education and Community Outreach Coordinator on staff at one of the superstars at Main Street Church. Come on up, Marion, I'll hand you the mic. She's just going to give us a bit of an update on what's been going on at the Cherish Project this last year.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Just like a painting, a masterpiece is intentional, valuable, and created with purpose. We believe every person is a masterpiece, woven together by God, and that belief drives everything we do. Our work is urgent. We are different than any other mission in Chilliwack. I'll tell you why. Because in Canada, 27% of deaths are linked to abortion, assisted suicide, and euthanasia. Let's sit with that for a minute, because that's staggering. That's around a quarter of the deaths we see in our country. Yes, the whole world is watching Canada. The stats show we are worse than California. And yes, it's actively happening right here in Chilliwack, in the Bible Belt. Every time I do a presentation in a church or a school, people share their stories with me. For example, people are really distressed about getting an unsolicited visit from the medical aid in dying, also known as the MAID, or the euthanasia team. They come to their private homes asking if they've heard about MAID, or social workers coming to their hospital bed and waiting until their family is gone and can't advocate for them. Others carry deep guilt for allowing their loved one to choose this path. The silent suffering of those left behind reminds us how many lives are affected by loss and choice. And that is why we work so hard every day to offer support, compassion, and alternatives. Through our Cherish Women's program, run by Laura Lynn and Nikki, we continue to walk alongside women facing unexpected and unsupported pregnancies. Every week, women come to us seeking clarity. They need someone who will listen and speak the truth in love. For those of you who have been with us for years, you know they receive pregnancy testing, ultrasounds, option counseling, baby supplies, referrals, and post-abortion healing support. But more importantly, they receive love and hope. While client details are always completely confidential, I can share that in this past year, I've heard girls crying in our office. I've seen parents pacing back and forth, desperately hoping their daughter will choose life for their own grandchild. And I've heard doctors and other organizations calling for help. We remind women, you are not alone. Your life and your baby's life have value. Our mobile resource van expands that reach by bringing support directly into the community, partnering in places like Hope and Sardis Doorway, and standing in front of Chilliwack Secondary. That van represents accessibility and presence, meeting people where they are with care and resources. Through the Cherish Seniors program, we provide bread, food hampers, visits, phone calls, and our amazing hospital discharge support so vulnerable seniors know they are seen and valued. One senior keeps mentioning how he loves the Christmas mailbox letters from the students. He often takes them out to read again and again. Another senior just can't believe our volunteer visits him in the hospital. He is so thankful that there's someone who cares about him. In a culture that often overlooks the elderly, we say clearly, you are still a masterpiece. Education remains a priority as it has for over 46 years. We've spoken in churches, youth groups, and in every Christian school in Chilliwack this year, addressing topics like sexual integrity and the ethics of life with truth and compassion. Because we believe that adults and students alike deserve opportunities to explore these issues thoughtfully. But none of this happens without you, our volunteers and supporters who give time and resources. You are the hands and the feet of this mission. You're helping restore the understanding that worth is not based on convenience, productivity, or circumstance, but on being created by God. And I want you to know that each of your brushstrokes matter. every kind word, every act of compassion. And if after tonight you feel compelled to get involved and would like to volunteer, maybe even just once a month to help package hampers, or a couple times a year to fold newsletters, please see our volunteer coordinator, Jody Punakuk, in the back after the event. Or maybe your children are in school, or you're just retired and you're wondering how to fill some of your time. Perhaps visiting another senior is something you might enjoy and can come talk to us about. Behind the scenes, Erica, our friendly office manager, and Jillian, our executive director, are working hard to support the other staff and make sure we move our vision forward. Looking ahead, we hope to expand mobile outreach, strengthen post-abortion support, grow senior initiatives, and increase education awareness so no one feels alone. Psalm 139 reminds us that we are fearfully and wonderfully made, masterpieces crafted with purpose. Because of you, women find hope, seniors feel remembered, and lives are protected. Thank you for helping us honor and support every masterpiece, because when we support life, we protect God's work.
Thank you, Marion. So appreciate you and the work that you do at the Cherish Center. I'll just remind you that the auction, the online auction, is going to end right at 8:30. So if you do want to take advantage of that, please do so before 8:30. And the little link is on the back of your card. Now I want to switch over to something that Cherish Center introduced about 4 years ago, what they call Life Awards. And it's just a way to just recognize people who just, everyday heroes, who just volunteer and just give themselves to just the great ministry of just caring about life, and that, yeah, life matters to every individual. And to just introduce those, I'm going to bring up Lori Thronis, who is the vice president of our board. Lori, thank you for being with us tonight.
Well, thank you so much. I'm vice president, but really I'm just a stand-in for our president, Laura Kingma, who can't be here tonight because she's with her daughter who's giving birth. Like, we don't just talk the talk here at Pro-Life Chilliwack, we deliver. Okay, so Cherish Life Awards. We like to honor some spectacular volunteers every year, and so we're going to honor 3 people today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to announce their name, then I'm going to talk about them for a moment, then I'm going to get them to stand, and we're all going to express our appreciation while they get a gift. And that gift is just an engraved pen set, and it's just something for them to remember us by. So the first spectacular volunteers today are Tony and Ina Kardux. You've seen them countless times at the March for Life in Victoria. Though they've walked those streets year after year through long days and weary moments, they continue to show up. Why? Because they believe that every step defending God's masterpieces is worth it. They even come, if you can believe it, to our annual general meeting every year. Now that is a super volunteer. They are encouraging, they're faithful, they're steady. Tony and Ina, we are so deeply grateful for all you've done over the years. Your presence strengthens our staff, uplifts our board, and ultimately blesses the vulnerable people we serve. When you show up, you make a difference. So tonight, it's our joy to say you truly deserve this Cherish Life Award. Would you please stand wherever you are? And let's show our appreciation. There they are. And there's your gift. So thank you very much. You may be seated. And the third person that we have is a volunteer who works with our Cherish Seniors program. She ministers to seniors without social contact. So we get referrals from time to time from Chilliwack Hospital when they're sending home someone who has no one who cares for them. And so we care for them. And Susan Friesen, our third Cherish Life Award recipient this year, cares for them. Susan has been a truly faithful and devoted volunteer. She delivers bread to more than 30 seniors every other Monday for years now, dedicating over 5 hours each time she serves. Her commitment goes far beyond the deliveries themselves. She genuinely cares for every client, takes the time to sit and listen, and build meaningful relationships. Susan's compassion and consistency bring comfort and connection to so many lives. Thank you, Susan, for all that you do. Your kindness makes a profound and lasting impact on those who need it most. Susan Friesen, could you stand wherever you are? There she is. Let's thank her. Thank you so much, Susan, for all you do. And, you know, these are special volunteers, but all of our volunteers are special. We could not get by. We could not have a society if we did not have you as volunteers. So thank you for all that you do. And I'll hand it back to our MC now.
Thank you. Well, our ministry, our organization's been saddened by the passing away of one of our dear people, Keanu. You might have heard his name. He's been introduced and utilized in a lot of our training over the last season. Unfortunately, well, the good news is his mom, Margaret, was originally able to save him from MAID several years ago. And unfortunately, just in December, Keanu went doctor shopping and unfortunately found a doctor in BC who was very happily willing to end his life. And at the end of December, this 26-year-old man, his life was terminated by this Dr. Weeb. And so we're really saddened by the loss of this young man whose life just ended way too early. And I'd like to just join me in just watching this short clip to just understand this better.
We strongly believe that she was coaching him in order for her to check off her own boxes.
Henry Morgenthaler one day said to me, Ellen, other people can be family doctors, but we need you to do just abortions. I love my job. This is the very best work I've ever done in the last 7 years. Doctors like grateful patients, and nobody is more grateful than my patients now.
One of my patients who booked her death, I came to see her. She was in the hospital, so I came to see her about 5 days before her booked death. And I said, just, wanting to know if you're still feeling the same as you was when we talked last. And she said, no, I've changed my mind. I was scared. I'm not scared anymore. I'm fine. And she actually died on the day she had booked her death.
Yeah, that's a video you don't applaud, eh? Just so sad to see that taking place in our community, in our province, in our country. Lord, turn the tide. It's also great to hear what we would call client stories, volunteers, people who work alongside Cherish and just kind of get their hands dirty and their feet muddy and just really jump in. I'm going to introduce Colleen Roy to just come up on the stage and share a little bit with us. Colleen's married to Scott. They have 6 beautiful children that they homeschool. Also one grandchild. There he is right there. She was the director of the Coquitlam Pro-Life Society and volunteers with us, and she's stepping into this role working with seniors. And so thanks for sharing with us tonight, Colleen.
Thank you. Working with Cherish was totally out of my comfort zone. For many years, my pro-life work has been behind a microphone or behind a pen. I never really had to look into the eye of the person who was suffering. I never had to touch or listen. I volunteered with Cherish, perhaps because I felt that God was asking me to go out of my comfort zone, to do something quieter and gentler than what I had been doing all of these years. A part of my discomfort was the idea that someone who was old or alone would simply want my friendship because they were old and alone. It seemed very patronizing and presumptuous that I would go into their bedside and say, "Hi, I'm a total stranger and I'm here to make you happy today." It made me very uncomfortable. My experience this past year has been that yes, for some reason, they want my friendship. They are desperate for friendship, desperate for a phone call, a cup of tea, and someone who will stop talking and start listening. A woman who I'm visiting now, I visited her this morning, 4'7", 95 years old, partially blind, and she lives alone. I'm a giant when I stand next to her. She's literally like down here, and she's adorable, and I love her. And I went there a few weeks ago. She'd gone into the hospital. I have her permission to share this. She went into the hospital to have her arthritis looked at. Her hands are swollen and stiff. She thought she'd pick up groceries on her way back home and go in and maybe get some treatment for her hands. They piled her up on a gurney and left her in the hallway for 6 days. For 6 days, she lay in that bed, confused and neglected. She was left to find the bathroom alone. Can you imagine this little woman in her hospital gown, in a hallway, invisible to everybody? I'm not sure if she had her white cane with her. I don't know. I don't like to think of her hobbling down that hallway, looking for a bathroom, part blind. She told me that if it hadn't been for one nurse, a nurse from Kenya, she would have gone crazy and died there. This one nurse came to her and said, "In my country, we take care of our elderly. If you need something, call for me." She's reminded me of that story almost every time I have visited her. When she was discharged, I was sent to meet her, to get her some groceries and to offer some help. She didn't really understand why I was there. But after one cup of tea and a nice long conversation where I just let her express the trauma that she had gone through, having been neglected and ignored for 6 days, she told me that other than her sons, one lives in England and calls her weekly, the other calls her most days, other than her son, I was the only person who had made her truly feel like someone cared about her. We barely know each other. I try to visit her once a week, and she's become a true gift to me. Another man that I visited in the hospital, he'd lost his hearing. I went in just as confused as he was. I didn't know what to say to him. Again, I thought, he's going to look at me and say, "Get out of here, I don't need your help." He'd been in that hospital for 3 months and told me that he didn't remember getting out of the bed once, that they had never put him in the wheelchair to get fresh air. He didn't remember getting into a shower. He was so confounded and confused, and he cried every time I saw him, and the amount of times he threatened to kill himself, I can't tell you. The first day I met him, he had a piece of paper, you know the land vacancy thing the assessment you have to phone in and say, "Yes, I live in my own house." Because he'd been in the hospital when that was sent to him, he received a piece of mail that said, "You did not fill out that form, therefore you owe us $45,000. Completely confused, completely at a loss, and I'm sitting there a total stranger. His social worker stands and she says to him, "Well, I'm sure we can figure something out. I'll be back next Thursday and we can take a look at it." He's sobbing. He says to me, "If they take my home from me, it's the only thing I have. I swear to God, I will kill myself." So I took a deep breath and I asked if I could look at the paper. I thought, I can figure this out if you'll give me permission to call the government office. The woman on the other line was very hesitant because I said, I'm nobody. This man barely knows me, but he needs help. We need to sort this out. By the end of the conversation, because of God's grace, she let me put herself on speakerphone. I could write out what she was asking to the gentleman, and he could answer the questions orally. In 5 minutes, it was done, and it was over, and I said to him, it's all good. Like, I'm typing it on my phone. You're done. Don't worry about it. Again, he just broke down in tears and said, thank you so much. Someone is finally listening to me. I was a stranger. The final story that I want to share with you, just hopefully briefly, she's hard to speak about briefly. Linda. Linda was the first woman I visited. Very suspicious, very reserved. She'd lived alone for decades. She no longer even knew where her son was. She let me into her house with much reserve. She was very unhappy that I was a Catholic. She allowed me to stay. I was allowed to sit for a moment. Over the next few days, we grew closer and closer. We laughed, we cried, we shared stories of our children. We shared our favorite scriptures. We talked about what annoyed us. If I could have journaled, I wish I could go backwards and every day that I visited her, journaled our conversations. I tell you, it would be worth reading. I've never met a woman like this. She met my children and she loved them. She told me that she loved me. She told me that I had the most handsome husband. It was a miracle because she was so completely closed off to all human companionship. A few weeks later, she received a phone call from a hospice nearby saying to her, we have a room for you, but you need to be here tomorrow. I'm ignorant in these things, and I said, okay, well, then let's help you get this going. We rushed around like crazy packing up her stuff. You have to understand that this home that she'd been living in by herself, it was her safety, her security. She had provided for herself everything she needed alone. And now, tomorrow, you need to be here and close up shop. In the rush of it, we got her there. I noticed that very quickly her humor, her contentment, her peace was starting to fall downhill. The second day that I was there, I was asked to leave the room while two professional-looking people walked in the room with a clipboard, and I knew immediately what they were doing. I knew that it was Maid. And I knew that she did not want Maid, but I also knew that she was very much afraid of suffering. A few more days went by, and she was becoming more and more unhappy and angry that her life had been taken from her, that she had no freedom or independence. She was regretful and despairing, and the only person that she saw in the world that knew and cared about her was myself. She got angry with me and told me to stop visiting her, which I did. For about a week, I gave her some space. I sent her a text message or two. I went back into the hospice to visit her 10 days later, and she was already dead. They had killed her within a week of her settling into that place. They invited her to rush into hospice and then killed her a week later. I tell you this story knowing that it might frighten somebody from volunteering. The story is an exception and a lesson. It's something that God called me to deal with, a part of Linda's life that he called me to share in. Regardless of her sad choice, we developed a deep and meaningful friendship. And for those few weeks before the system stepped in, she did feel loved. She did feel hope, and she knew that we cared about her. So my point in telling you this is that we are in a battle for life. When Linda came home from the hospital, she told me she would rather die alone on her floor than go back into that hospital. All three of my stories involve the idea that these people felt death was their only next option. Without us loving them, what do they have? What is God calling us to do? These people are crying out to be remembered for who they are and for what they are, God's creation. There's a translation of Ephesians that says, "For we are God's masterpiece. He has created us anew in Christ Jesus so we can do the good things he planned for us long ago." And we all know the scripture, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." If God is the divine artist who formed us and who set us apart, then that makes us his masterpiece. But the enemy is working, sadly with some success, to instill the idea that these people have no value and are better off dead. It has been my experience that these people have much more to offer us than we know. They have something to give, something to share, and they have the good things that God planned for them. I would sincerely ask you to consider volunteering to help these seniors. The time I have spent with the friends I have made has been perhaps more than some of the other volunteers. That's because the situation and time in my life, I'm able to do that. There are some people who simply go, you meet them at the hospital if you can, you meet them at their home, you get them some groceries, you give them a phone call that week, maybe the next week, and a couple of weeks later. If they need something, you're there for them, but it can be as simple as those phone calls and the groceries, or it can be more involved, like my relationships that I've developed with these people. It has been a blessing. It has been a huge lesson and opened my eyes to this true, real, sorrowful need. And I simply believe that it's God's calling to us as Christians. So I pray that you will do something if you can. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Colleen. It's now my pleasure to introduce Wendy Burpee, who is our guest speaker tonight. Wendy flew up yesterday from Pennsylvania. Wendy's actually the executive director of two pro-life centers in two communities, about an hour and a half from Philadelphia. Think of Abbotsford and Chilliwack, an hour and a half from Vancouver, and two kind of large communities. And she's the director of both of these centers. Wendy's also an author who's written Running Towards Abortion. We have copies of that at the back. I would just encourage you to pick up a book on your way out. It's always personally a challenge for me to introduce somebody I don't know, so I took the liberty of researching Wendy, and now I'm very excited to hear from her. She is legit. She is the real thing. I think you're going to be so blessed to hear her story and what she has to share with us tonight. So let's give a warm welcome, a Chilliwack welcome to Wendy Burpee. Thank you.
Well, that's the first time anyone's described me as legit.
Thank you.
Thank you. So it's such an honor and a privilege to be here. I have never been in Canada before. This is a beautiful part of your country. I just amazed by the mountains that I'm looking out my window at. So it's been a really awesome trip. I wish I could stay a week longer. I think I'm going to go home, grab my husband, and come back. So I have 3 kids. I like to just give you a second to understand who I am. My kids are 25, my son, and 23, and my daughter is 21. And in my opinion, you only need one daughter. So I love her so much. She's just like me. So that's my family. These children that God blessed me with are just the very heart and soul of who I am. And, you know, when I travel, like, crazy things happen every single time. And 3 years ago, I was sharing with the staff that I was in Bangor, Maine, and I was in a hotel and waiting to come speak just like this, maybe in an hour. And my son called and he said to me, you know, Mom, I want to tell you something. And I was like, yeah, sure, what's up? How's it going? What's up? And he said, you know, Faith and I, his girlfriend, we just want to, you know, tell you something. And I was like, okay, what do you want to tell me? And he said, we're going to have a baby. And I said, you called me while I'm about to speak without your father to tell me this. And I'm not going to lie, my heart broke a little bit, because that's not the way we raised him to live his life. And I had a moment of, I kind of said, can I just call you right back? And I hung up and I cried a little bit. And then I called him back, and I didn't know she was in the car, and I was on speaker. Now you think about what could have gone wrong here. And so I said, now listen, I just want to say to you, you know, do you love this girl? And he said, I do, Mom, I love her. And I said, you will honor her, and you will take care of her and that baby, or I will beat you with a baseball bat. And he said, Mom, you're on speaker. And I said, hi, Faith. And she's like, hi, Mrs. Burpee. But you know what? I could have said a whole lot worse than that. So that happened. And then I'm coming here, and I'm in Denver, and I'm at the airport, you know, sitting and waiting. And he calls me again, and he goes, Mom, I got to tell you something. And I was like, oh, no, you do not. And he said, Mom, you know, they've been in counseling and pastoral counseling, and they've been working with their pastor. And so he said, Mom, we signed the papers and we got married. And so I was just like, thank you, Jesus. There's actually a wedding coming soon, but he said we didn't want to wait anymore. We wanted to honor God. And so what a great blessing. So my heart is full as I come here tonight to talk to you. And, you know, every Tuesday, back in Pennsylvania, where I'm from, on WBYN radio, I share the truth about abortion and what it's like to work on the front lines inside of a pregnancy center. We call it the Life Minute. And my tagline is, every life is a miracle. We're going to change that up tonight. And we're going to say that every life is a masterpiece. This does not match the message of the current culture. Their message is, every life is an option. It's a burden. It's disposable. If you don't want your baby, you just terminate it. Abortion clinics promise relief, freedom from the consequences a woman might have to suffer if they choose life. Planned Parenthood carefully crafts and scripts their message to push you towards an abortion decision. Why? Because abortion equals money. And let me tell you that when you are filled with fear and surrounded by difficult circumstances, going home and swallowing a few pills or having a surgical procedure, it seems like a perfectly reasonable answer to your problem. An answer that creates a wound in you that you will carry for the rest of your life. Many people will say, well, thank God, Wendy, that you are forgiven and set free of the shame that you carried. I am forgiven, my friends, but I do not forget. I am pushed to do even more, almost like a righteous indignation, more to protect women from this horrible, horrible thing called abortion. Sometimes when I speak at rallies, people are screaming horrible things at me. My heart rages. How is it that I live in a world that makes it possible to and even celebrates abortion. So you're thinking, well, tell me, why are you so passionate? Well, you see, I was raised in a Christian school. I went to church 3 times a week. My dad raised me very strict. I was an honor student athlete. And when I graduated high school, I went off to college, Christian college. And when I came back from college, that first year, I met a young man. And he was, paying a lot of attention to me, and I had not been allowed to date. And so, I really quickly got involved with him. And I had to make a decision. They said, if you want to keep seeing him, you've got to leave the house. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to go. And so I moved out, and, he was all I had. My parents completely cut me off. There's no communication whatsoever. My church never heard one single word from them. And I'd been there since I was a baby. And let that be a reminder that when you see a woman, a young woman, she's out there and she's struggling, go get her. Don't ignore her. Don't sit and say, well, have you heard what she's out there doing? If not by the grace of God, that could be you. So, I'm just, with this guy, and he's the only one I have, right? And so a few months later, I found out I was pregnant. And I was absolutely terrified. I thought, okay, it's bad enough my parents don't speak to me now. If they find out I'm pregnant, I will never, ever get to be in this family ever again. I'll never be accepted. And so, I was raised in a Christian school, a very conservative Christian school. And, this was 25 years ago. We didn't talk about abortion like we do today. And it wasn't talked about in the Christian school like I think it is today. And so I didn't know what to do. He was all I had. So he said, why don't we go to Planned Parenthood and we'll just talk to them. We'll see what they have to say. And so I said, okay, if that's what you want to do. And so we went there. And we walked in, and they took me to the back and into an ultrasound room where the machine is faced away from the person so they can't see it. And they said, oh, you're early, but not exactly how far along I was. And so I, was taken to another room. And I sat on the bed, an inclined table. And I was shaking, and I was crying. And I didn't know what to do. And I was alone in that room. And a woman came in, and she said, why don't you take this medication? It will help to calm you down. And, I'm barely 19. So I said, okay, and I took that medication. And the woman said, the doctor will be in to see you shortly. And then you can speak with him about any other questions you might have. And I had questions. And so I waited. I waited sitting on that table, and I waited. And then I woke up, and it was over. And I was in this room, and if you've seen the movie Unplanned, it was exactly like that. I was in a chair, upright, but kind of hunched over. I woke up because the pain woke me up. And it took me a minute to figure out what had just happened. I'd never seen this doctor. I had never spoken to him. I had never asked my questions. If you were him, doing what he was about to do, would you want to be seen? And so she came and she gave me some juice, this lady, and she said, all right, you're free to go. Everything will be okay now. But it wasn't. And I left and got in the car with this young man that I thought I loved, and we went home, and, we never spoke of it again. And I was sad and broken. And it's not a surprise because 75% of relationships that involve abortion end. So about a year and a half later, that relationship did end. And I was trying to survive in the world, and I felt like a different person, though. And, just broken and wounded. So I was working and doing my own thing, and, the devil knows when you're at your weakest. And he sent this new guy into my life, and he was paying a lot of attention to me, and he was a welcome distraction. And so I started seeing him, and again, he wasn't a Christian, and I just, got involved with him, and very quickly he turned abusive. And when you are broken and wounded, you are more likely to allow someone to abuse you. And so that was kind of getting started, and I didn't really know how to break away from that. And he showed up at my apartment one night, and he had been drinking, and I was just coming home from work. And he came up into my apartment, and for 3 to 5 hours just beat me and assaulted me. And when he fell asleep, I went to the police. He was arrested. And months later, when the court case finally came up and they said, now you need to testify, he was going to go to prison for 10 years. And I was so broken. I thought, how can I do this to this guy who would send me letters and tell me that he did it out of jealousy because he loved me? And I refused to testify, and he was let go. And so over the months, it's hard to believe when you talk about yourself and who you used to be that you would allow this, but I started to talk to him again. And he said, listen, I really do love you, and if you could just give me another chance. And I did. That's how broken I was. And so we got together and we started seeing each other, and it was okay for a while. And then the abuse started again. And I just stayed because I didn't really think I was worthy of more. And then I found out I was pregnant. And so I went to him and I said, listen, I want the baby. I can do this. I don't need you to help me. You don't have to marry me. I'll do everything, but I want the baby. And he said no. And I said, no, listen, I can do it. I don't need you to do anything for me. I want to keep the baby. And so for a couple of weeks, he would punch me and hit me, and he tried to make me lose the baby. And eventually, I just thought, I can't do this. I can't do it. And I got in the car with him, and I drove back to a place I said I would absolutely never go again. And I walked back in, and the process was the same. And this time, I was clearly an abused woman. Anyone could have seen, just by looking at me, that I was being hit fairly regularly. And no one said, are you all right? Can we help you? Is this what you want? Because if you think about it, they're really on his side. And so I went to the back, and this time I know what's going to happen, right? So fool me once. And so I go through the whole process all over again, and I wake up in what they call the recovery room, and now my second baby is gone. And so we get in the car and we go home. We don't speak a word to each other. The next day he goes to work, and so do I, because I couldn't afford to stay home. And I'm at work, and I was having a pretty hard time dealing with things, and I was in a lot of pain. And by the time I got home that night, I knew I was in trouble. Something was really wrong. And he came home that night, and he said, what's going on? And I said, I think you need to take me to a hospital. I think there's definitely something wrong. And he was annoyed because it was Friday night and it was drinking night. and I was kind of standing in the way and of his good time. And so he did drive me to the hospital, and he dropped me off. And I can still remember leaning in the window, and I always said, don't leave me here, please. Don't leave me here. You're going to come in, right? And he said, yeah, I'm going to go park. Go ahead. And I walked into the lobby of the hospital and passed out onto the floor. And they rushed me into the back and, smelling salts. And I came to, and they said, listen, what's going on? What's going on? And I couldn't even say above a whisper, I had an abortion. And they knew just what to do, because you see, hospitals across this entire country, and yours too, know exactly how to handle botched abortions. They see this every single day. And they're used to what they need to do to save a woman who's suffering from one of the major side effects that can happen to you when you have an abortion. So I was hemorrhaging to death, and they rushed me into the back, and I had emergency surgery, and they did all the things that they needed to do and got me on antibiotics, and they saved my life. I can remember as they were taking me down the hallway to have this surgery, I can remember praying to God, please, God, don't let me die like this. My mother will never recover. And God had mercy. He had mercy on me. And so, this event ends, and I go home, and, life is depressing and dark. And I don't know how to really go on beyond just one day at a time. I'm just surviving in this relationship where I didn't even care if he hit me anymore. It didn't even matter. And about 4-5 months later, I got pregnant again. And I did try to prevent pregnancy, but it just, when you're living that lifestyle. And so I'm pregnant again. This time I didn't even tell him. I didn't even tell him because I didn't want him to hit me. And so I just went on my own and had it taken care of. Now, I don't even know at this point another human being on the planet that's had 3 abortions. And that was naive because I wasn't the only one. But I didn't think that there was anyone worse than me. I was raised in a Christian home. How could I possibly have gotten to this place? And surely God had turned his back on me and wanted nothing to do with me. But then the most amazing thing happened. I had a friend from high school. Her name was Joanna, and she was a cheerleader, and she was a really great girl, very, very high energy. And she reconnected with me. She and I reconnected. I can't remember even the fine details of how that happened, except that it must have been God. And she started talking to me, and we were kind of going back and forth, and she married a youth pastor, and she was just living this beautiful life. And she would talk to me about it, and they were planning a family, and I couldn't even fathom having a life like that. And she'd ask me some things, and I would try to just, downplay it. I'm not in a good relationship. Don't worry about it. But she knew, and she was a true friend, and she kept pursuing me relentlessly until finally one day, her husband and her showed up at my apartment, and she said, let's go, we're leaving. Does anybody have a friend like that? The friend that can come to your house and literally just say anything to you? They can tell you you're fat. They can say anything to you. And you just go, all right, And she just told me straight out, we're done with this. We're not doing this anymore. Get your stuff. And she had trash bags. She was walking through, are these your clothes? Is this your stuff? It's going in the bag. Get in the car. And I was like, no, what are you doing? I can't do this. He'll find me. You don't understand. But she wouldn't let me go. And I got in that car. And I drove away. Now I was wounded and broken. And there was more to the story. It took me a little bit longer to really be ready to change. But somewhere along that way, I realized that God had never turned his back on me. I had turned my back on him. He was always standing there, always. I'm right here. And I was running the other direction. Someone told me once that when I was walking out of Planned Parenthood, broken, empty, wounded, that Jesus himself was standing right next to me, holding my child, with his arm around me. Just imagine that for a minute. I needed to hear that because that wasn't the God that I grew up knowing. He was nothing but judgment where I came from. He wasn't a loving father like I know him to be today. So, a few months later, I met my husband, and we started to see each other. And a year later, I was married. And I can't tell you how amazing that felt to me, that I found a husband that wanted me. And then just the most amazing thing ever, because think about it, I've had 3 abortions, my body is a wreck. One of those was a botched abortion, which needed intervention. I didn't think I'd ever have children. I didn't think I was worthy to have children. And then, because God is good, and he is merciful, I got pregnant. And he gave me a son. And then 2 years later, another son. And then the princess came. And God was gracious to me. And I didn't deserve it. And so, I'm back in church. That was hard. And my kids are in Christian school, and I'm a cafeteria mom, and I'm in all the things and all the groups, and I'm doing all the things that no one knows except for my husband about my past. No one knows, and I didn't want anyone to know, because the judgment of Christians can sometimes be very real. And so I kept that all hidden, and then I started to feel, when my daughter was in middle school, I was like, Lord, do you have something for me? Anything you give me to do, I will do for you, Lord. And so he had me hook up with this friend, and she worked at Genesis Pregnancy Care Center. And I thought, well, that sounds nice. What do you all do there? Well, we help women and babies. The original Genesis, that when I came, they weren't doing any kind of medical services or ultrasound at the time, but it sounded really nice. And no one actually even mentioned abortion when they interviewed me. So I was like, okay, this is good. I can help moms and babies. Sounds great. I was working in insurance at the time, so I was burned out on that, and I had never volunteered at a pregnancy center. Think about this. Never. I had no idea what they even did, and they hired me to be the executive director. Who does that? And so I was like, okay, God, I'm gonna do this. It was a little pregnancy center, and they were very in bad shape. And I was like, I'm gonna fix this. And okay, God, whatever you want me to do, I'm gonna do it. And there wasn't even anybody to train me. And I literally walked in, and I was like opening drawers. What's in there? What do we do here? I don't know. But God was in it. And we started to rebuild, and we became medical. Another pregnancy center mentored me, and they said, Wendy, you got to get medical, because you've got to let women be able to see their unborn children, just like Cherish is doing. Let them hear the heartbeat. And I thought, yeah, I never got to have that. No one let me see, no one let me hear my own child. So we're doing that. So we turned medical, and we began to really see amazing things happen in our clinic. And the day that we began to scan, I said, Lord, give me 3. If you give me 3 babies and you let me save 3, I will serve you till I die. And now our clinic has saved over 500 babies because God is good. And then we opened a second clinic, and we're busy there. And then a friend of mine, another speaker, encouraged me to write my story, running toward abortion, because that's what I do every day. That hidden secret isn't a secret anymore. I did eventually have to go through the process of telling my secret, right? So I had to tell my parents. That was so horrible. I mean, you can just imagine what that was like, to go to my parents' house and pull up a chair and say, I need to tell you something. And so they were gracious, and it was hard. And then I had to tell my kids. That was really hard. And my kids were amazing, and they cried, and they said, Mom, go do the good things that God is giving you to do. We're behind you. And I was like, I don't know. Your friends are going to find out about my story, and I'm sorry. I hope no one says anything rude to you. They said, no, it's okay, Mom. You go out there and do it. And my husband fully supported me, so I've been very busy. When the book came out, then a speaking group that I worked for contacted me and said, would you like to start speaking? And I was like, wow, okay, I'm doing the pregnancy center thing, Lord, and that's great. And the book thing, that's great. But you want me to travel around the country and tell everybody what a piece of garbage I used to be? And he said, yes, I do. And I had promised him, I will do whatever you ask me to do, Lord. I'll go wherever you want me to go. And so that's what I've been doing for the past, couple of years. In between the clinics, I get to jump on a plane and fly to amazing places to spend time with amazing people, pro-life people, pastors, and staff, the staff at Cherish. Pray for them, by the way. This work is heavy. I know, trust me. But I'm so glad that you're all here tonight, that you took the time to make this a priority. So you see, God has done great things in my life. He's shown me great mercy that I absolutely do not deserve. But abortion is a wound. My wound is still healing. Some people don't like when I say that, but it's true. I honor my children who never took their first breath tonight by telling you my story. They have meaning because God allows me to travel all over this country and speak to you about them. Their ages would be 36, 32, and 31. And the day that I can talk about them without emotion is the day I will stop speaking. Recently, I visited the National Memorial for the Unborn in Tennessee. And on the wall are hundreds and hundreds of plaques with heartfelt messages symbolizing people who want their child remembered. It was a difficult trip for me, as you can imagine. I walked around the memorial garden, and I thought in that moment, how different could it have been if I had found a pregnancy center like Cherish Women's Resource Center? What if I had walked in with fear to find a loving, kind counselor who offered me an ultrasound and let me hear my unborn baby? What if I had met a woman like Laura Lynn, who cared that I was being abused and spoke life into my heart? How different could my story have been? And what if an elderly woman whose kids don't find time to visit her or give her the care that she once gave them receives a difficult medical diagnosis and finds herself overwhelmed with emotions at that moment? How powerful do you think it will be for her to find Cherish for Seniors? Because I know firsthand that fear and depression are emotions that will lie to you. I remember clearly finding out I was pregnant and thinking immediately, I can't handle this. But God can handle it. And whether it's an unplanned pregnancy or an illness for an elderly person, God can handle it. Never in human history have we seen more ideology that promotes a throwaway culture. I read a lot about the Holocaust, and Hitler had the same idea that we now promote. He eliminated Jewish babies and the elderly because they created a burden on society. I just recently read that abortions were being done in Auschwitz and newborns were being used for experimentation. When the war ended, we thought we would never experience evil like that again, and here we are, not learning from history. We wrap it up in a pretty bow and we call it women's rights, or DWD, death with dignity. And if you are not wanted, if you are not useful, if you represent a potential burden to someone else, we just throw you out. The work that Cherish is doing is in the name itself. They cherish. They cherish the life of the unborn child and the baby's mother. They cherish the man or the woman who is struggling to see a path forward at a time when circumstances feel overwhelming. The work this center does is holy, sacred work. They are fighting for the lives of the innocent and the frail. They are working to bring back to this community the value of human life. And while the culture around us will keep trying to break it down, Cherish will stand in the gap and bring hope to every person they touch. Tonight, you have a chance to stand with them and be part of this life-saving center. You may not answer the phone in the building or perform an ultrasound or counsel women, but you can be just as valuable in this opportunity to give. You can be part of their team. And many of you here tonight have given before, and for that, Cherish thanks you. But tonight, here we are again, with another year ahead, and so much more that they would like to do. You are the future of Cherish in Chilliwack. Can you help them tonight? Save some more babies. And can you help this hardworking staff and board take the hand of a lonely human in need of support and share the love of Jesus with them? I pray that my story makes you see how important this center is for women, just like the woman that I used to be. Women who need support so they can choose life. I recently heard something that really stuck in my mind. the closest thing to creating life is saving it. God gives life, but tonight we have the opportunity to protect it. He creates the masterpiece, and we will help keep it safe. So tonight, this is your opportunity. Now, I don't know if you know this, but this is a fundraiser. And sometimes people are scared. They don't want to ask for money. I'm not scared. I'll ask. We need your help. And I promise you that these very wise women will use every penny that they are given to assist every woman that comes in the doors of Cherish. I guarantee you, I've spent the whole afternoon with them. And their hearts for this community are evident. So this is your chance. Now, on your table, you've got slips. This is a privilege, right? It's a privilege. This is for the kingdom. So you've got this first giving slip, okay? This is an opportunity for you to give a one-time gift. And a lot of you, came tonight with an idea in your head, which is smart because it's always good to be prepared. But what does God want you to do? What does God want you to give? I know you're probably all faithful to your different churches, and we're so grateful for that. But tonight, what does God want you to do for Cherish? So fill out this one-time giving, and then we're just gonna get crazy, okay? Because you're gonna do this, you're gonna put this down, $1 million. And then you're gonna take this one, okay? This is a monthly giving slip. And you're like, okay, we already did the million, now what do you want? Well, see, you could just do maybe like $50 a month, right? If you're an empty nester, just think of it like, see all the kids that they're not spending money in your house anymore? So just put it here. When my daughter moved out, I saved $500 a month just on Walmart and Target. You know that's true about these young women in Target. It's a problem. So maybe consider monthly, because then they can look at that and see the year going forward of what they have coming in monthly, and they can plan for the future. How many more women, how many more elderly can they help? So hopefully, you're going to let God do a work in you so that they can do a work in this community. And I just want to say to you that it's been an absolute honor and a privilege to be here with you tonight. I would have driven 40 hours or flown 40 hours in a plane to be here in Chilliwack. And maybe someday I'll bring my husband back to your beautiful city. But I thank you so much for having me. God bless.
I told you, legit, right? Yeah, I just think listening to Wendy's story, even before she came up tonight, and just thinking, I understand a lot of people who are really passionate about pro-life, maybe don't go to church, maybe you don't consider yourself a Christian, and we respect that and we honor that, and we're so thankful you're here. But I know there's other people in the room who do go to church and maybe call themselves a Christian, but I just felt that story growing up in a Christian home, going to church, going to a Christian school, and you end up in that story and how you're kind of shunned and dismissed. She talked about the shame of the church and how you're so embarrassed to share your story. Lord, would that not be how we treat broken people? Jesus loves the broken, and we need to love the broken too. Well, we're just in our closing moments and wrapping up tonight. I just want to thank you for coming. Just a couple of things we're going to do, and we'll just do this nice and quickly. But I'm going to invite Laura Lynn and Nikki to come up. They're going to just give away some door prizes. So they're just going to come to the front and douse the room with gifts. And then I'll just close us up with a few final comments. And while they're making their way up, I'll maybe do some of those final comments. I'm just so thankful to the volunteers that are kind of sticking around so that when you leave, they can reset this room for church on Sunday. But maybe you have a few minutes and say, oh, I can help. I can stack tables. I can put away plates. I can roll up tables out of the room. And if you want to stick around, just go to one of our staff with volunteer staff name tags, and they can give you direction. Any help would be super. It just allows our volunteers to go home a little bit earlier than 2 in the morning. Okay, Laura Lynn.
I'm going to let Nikki call it. I don't know how to pronounce that. My glasses. Just say the first name.
Krista? I don't know how to say last name. Van Clay?
Van Clay.
Rita Klopp? If you could just stand. Trevor? Malpars? If I say your last name wrong, I apologize. Okay. Alana Kirchhoff? Hans Mulder? What?
Just say Carissa. Did you give this guy? It's Carissa.
Carissa? Where is she? Geraldine? Here's Geraldine. Where are you? Oh, you're over there? I don't know. Just pick one. Geraldine. Geraldine? Yep. Oh, here she is. How many is that? Monique. In the middle. Gary Van Dopp. Which one's for Gary? Tammy? Tammy. Yes.
Only one Tammy.
One more? Tammy.
One more.
Leona. Leona? Schmidt? Yeah. There we go.
Great. Good job, ladies. Thank you. So as we wrap up tonight, maybe God tugged your heart and you want to volunteer for the Cherish Center. Joy's at the back of the room, just as you go out in the lobby, and you can just connect with her and she can give you some information. I would just love us to just give a appreciation for the volunteers and staff of Cherish Center. Could I get you to stand? If you're on the board, if you're a volunteer, if you're a staff member, would you stand for a moment? Marion, there we go. Everyone. What an amazing ministry. We are with you and we so appreciate your heart for lives. Well, as we close tonight, I'll just remind you, if you have an opportunity to pick up a copy of Wendy's book, it's available for sale at the back as you make your way out. And if you do want to just help us clean up, no pressure, no obligation, but if you have time, that would be amazing. So, Lord, thank you for just an amazing evening. Thank you for what you're doing here in Chilliwack and beyond as we just care about lives and those precious little ones, our precious seniors. We just ask your continued blessing over this ministry in Jesus' precious name. Amen. Thank you for coming and have a great night.